Today on NewsBreak's Behind the Byline, we're excited about our guest who has interviewed everyone from Tim Cook to Mark Zuckerberg to Meghan the Duchess of Sussex. Emily Chang, host and executive producer of The Circuit, is here to share what she's learned from 2 decades inside the world of tech, media, and storytelling.
Meghan is taking a different approach.
The Netflix of it all. Who has the last word?
Creatively, they very graciously said, no, this is your baby and this is your brand.
All right, on today's episode of NewsBreak's Behind the Byline, joining us, Emily Chang, host and executive producer of The Circuit and Post-Human. She was anchor of Bloomberg Technology before that, a correspondent for CNN, and she started her career as a general assignment reporter for the Fox station in Honolulu. Emily, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, the Fox station in Honolulu where you were my intern. So how could I say no?
That's right. Let's jump right into it. Yes. Okay. So to be totally transparent, we've known each other for a couple of decades now, if people want to start guessing our age. I was an intern at the Fox station in Honolulu, just this spring little chicken trying to get into the news business. And here you were, the big general assignment reporter, and you brought me under your wing. Can you believe it's been 2 decades?
Oh my gosh. Well, let's be clear. I was the lowest on the totem pole where I was, and then you were one step below me. And I would say that in this business, this is, it's a very competitive business and it's easy to get threatened, but I could see that you had so much potential. And also, I think I just wanted to be your friend. And so we were inseparable. And I saw obviously this huge career ahead for you, which you ended up going and doing all of the things that, we talked about being possible. So I'm so proud and glad to say I had a tiny, tiny little hand in it.
Not a tiny hand in it. I mean, I don't know where I would have been without you, Emily. So yeah, after all these years, thank you so much for everything that you did for me. We're going to talk about that later on too. How, if somebody's listening out there, how they should break into the business and how maybe it's changed today compared to, when we started a couple decades ago. I want to ask you first, though, how does it feel to be on the other side of an interview? Thank you for saying yes, by the way.
To be honest, I don't love being on the other side. Obviously I've spent 20 plus years asking the questions. And so when the tables are turned, it's good to do every once in a while to have more empathy for my guests. And I'm so grateful for all the people who take the time to sit with me. It's not easy to be in that chair. But my approach, which has sort of evolved over the years, is to allow people the space to be themselves, to ask tough but fair questions in a way that is respectful, but give people an opportunity to share, who they are, and allow the guest in the audience to understand them better. So that's sort of what I'm trying to do now in this phase of my career.
Yeah, you've had a lot of experience. You've interviewed some of the biggest names in tech, Tim Cook, Mark Zuckerberg. You've interviewed celebrities, Steph Curry, Meghan Markle. I have to ask you, who was your most memorable and why?
Gosh, that's always such a hard question to answer. It's impossible to answer because there have been so many. And every interview, oftentimes I leave feeling so enriched, I think of this job as an everyday education and you're just constantly learning from and meeting new people. There have been so many highlights. I just interviewed Meghan, not Markle. It's Meghan the Duchess of Sussex because she doesn't Markle anymore. That was definitely a memorable experience. Mark Zuckerberg, we went wake surfing together, which I'm from Hawaii, but I don't know how to wake surf. But I think the goal is in my new show, which is called The Circuit. It's not really new anymore. I've been doing it now for 3 years, but is to get people out of sort of that typical sitting in 2 chairs or sitting at a desk in a studio environment, try to understand who they really are. And so, we did a more traditional sit-down interview at Meta headquarters. But then, when he said, oh, you can also go wake surfing with me, I thought, okay, well, that's different. And I got to see a little bit more, who he is as a human being, as a dad, as a coach. He was trying to teach me. And, my goal isn't to necessarily change people's minds, change the audience minds, but to give the audience a more complete picture of who someone is so they can decide, do you like him or not? Do you trust him or not? And someone like Mark Zuckerberg, who's impacting the lives of billions of people, you kind of want to know whether or not you should trust him.
Yeah. So going back, you were an anchor of Bloomberg Technology for years. How long did you do that?
13 years.
A daily show, right? In the studio. Now you're out there in the world. interviewing people on the circuit and post-human. Tell me the differences between that and which one do you like best?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think Bloomberg Technology was just such an amazing platform and huge opportunity for me at that time I was in my career. Like I was before that, at CNN in Beijing, going all over China. And it was kind of nice to move into a studio and be in the same place every day. What I didn't know is how much I would love covering tech and business after going from covering floods and earthquakes and state visits. But tech at the time, this was 2010, was just exploding. This is where the new jobs were. This is where the economy was booming after the financial crisis, where there were so many interesting and fascinating personalities like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. So Bloomberg Tech, just sort of made, I fell in love with this industry and covering this industry, obviously one of the most powerful industries in the world, which deserves critique for that very reason. But over time, I just, I was interviewing such interesting people, but between commercial breaks, what live television is like. You only have a certain amount of time. And I really wanted to spend more time and take more time to learn a little bit more about them. So it was a really hard transition, and I actually pitched Bloomberg on this idea of trying to be the Anthony Bourdain for tech. Like if Anthony Bourdain was going to do a tech and business show, he wouldn't just be like sitting in a studio with them. He would be going out in the world and eating food sometimes, but doing other things. Amazingly, Bloomberg saw the potential and allowed me to make that transition, which meant leaving The Daily Show, and it was so hard to leave. Like I cried. It was a huge part of my identity. It was, it was who I was for 13 years. But now that I'm on the other side, I love it. I love it. I feel like it's an opportunity to do deeper storytelling. I also think we all need to reinvent ourselves every few years. And luckily I was able to do that at Bloomberg. And it's been a new, fresh challenge. And, I haven't looked back, to be honest.
That's amazing. If anyone hasn't seen the show, they should follow you on social media. You look like you're having so much fun out there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And, it's on Bloomberg Television, but all the episodes are on YouTube and we're on various streaming platforms as well. And like you said at the beginning, the world is changing. How people get news, how people consume content is changing. And so we're trying to meet audiences where they are.
So you've interviewed so many people. Is there someone else on your list that you really hope you can get in the chair?
So many people. There's so many people. Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Jensen Huang of NVIDIA. I've met him, but I haven't interviewed him. And obviously that company has gone through a major transformation. I think I covered core tech for so long that we're sort of trying to expand. Beyond that, I think tech is everything now. And so there'll always be a tech thread probably in every interview I do. But, interviewing someone like Meghan Markle or Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, I should say, Jamie Dimon, Steph Curry, it's been really fun to expand beyond core tech. And so I think you'll see us continue to try to do that. I do work for Bloomberg, right? So I think, business will always be important, but it's a huge part of our lives, the economy, and how we're all surviving. And at this time and an interesting inflection point in American history, those are sort of the things on my wish list.
When you took the job at Bloomberg, you had to move to Silicon Valley, to the Bay Area, right? That's where Bloomberg is headquartered. I have to ask you this, was there an interview or a story that motivated you to write your book, Brotopia, Breaking Up the Boys Club of Silicon Valley? Great book.
Yeah.
Tell me, it
Yes.
was published in 2018. Was there something that you saw that you were like, I need to write this. I need to write something like this?
Well, absolutely. I was interviewing 7 to 8 people a day on my daily show. It was an hour-long show. And we were looking for CEOs, startup entrepreneurs, top VCs, and investors. So many of my guests, the majority of my guests were men.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to find women. And it was hard because they were not promoted to these positions of powers. Women weren't getting the funding at that time. And also, the few powerful or influential women that I did interview, they'd get off the set, want to talk about it, the fact that they were so underrepresented, but people were too scared to talk about it. A few years into doing the show, I interviewed a top venture capitalist who, they had no female partners at the U.S. part of their firm at the time. And I said, well, what are you doing about that? And I sort of expected this very diplomatic answer, like, we're looking hard, we're trying, but, and it's very important to us. And he said, basically some version of we're looking hard, but they just don't exist. And, to say that talented, smart, ambitious women don't exist is, as we know, is a complete fallacy. And his comments went totally viral, and it was all people wanted to talk to me about for the next 3 months. And I realized that it had struck a nerve, and this was before the Me Too movement. And so that's when I started writing and investigating and talking to more people. And I benefited from the timing of the Me Too movement because it sort of happened almost in parallel. And the book—
That momentum was already there.
Yeah, the momentum was already there. And it was just a really, my timing ended up being smart or lucky, however you wanted to describe it. It was good timing.
Side note, when I saw your book in the bookstore, I was like, she used to be my best friend. So proud of you. Proud moment.
Thank you.
So then I have to ask you, obviously everyone was talking about that book and the toxicity in the tech industry. How do you balance holding powerful people accountable while maintaining access to them?
It goes back to sort of my philosophy, which is tough but fair and respectful. Like right now, especially at this moment where so much in journalism is shifting, I see myself as I see what we're doing as a bridge between traditional media and a friendly podcast or just going to direct to your audience. I think increasingly some of these people don't want to do a traditional media interview because they know they can go on, so-and-so's podcast and just basically have a free ride. But I just don't think that is necessarily the way to gain or maintain credibility among all audiences. And so I do think that some of these people are, they should continue to engage with people like me, journalists like me. But what I try to do is create an environment where people feel comfortable enough to answer some of the tough questions. And they have to. I mean, if you see the show, you're not going to get a free ride, but you do know that you're going to get a multifaceted, nuanced profile. And so I think if people are willing to step up to the plate and sort of, you get both sides. You get to show who you are, but then you also have to answer some of the tough questions. To me, it's an opportunity. And if you don't want to do it, then you can go to the next friendly podcast.
Yeah, I used to tell my sources, like, listen, my job is to ask you the tough questions, but at the end of the day, I'm always going to be as fair and balanced as I can. And that usually helps. I mean, talking about how social media today, podcasters and stuff like that, it's really changed the world of journalism. How do you think it would be to break into broadcast, into any kind of journalism these days? Back then, we used to carry around our tapes, our resume tapes, like 100 of them and mailed them off or led them to newsrooms and stuff like that. How do you think, people who are watching this who want to get into journalism, how do you think they should approach it?
Maria, I still have boxes and boxes of tapes in my attic. Same. Like I used to record everything. I used to take it all home with me. It's all different formats. I don't even know how.
I think I still have one of your resume tapes.
Remember we would go to the journalism conventions and we'd be carrying our tape. The world has changed so much. And I just don't, if I was starting out today, I don't think I would start that way. There's so many ways you can just, do your own TikToks now. Mm-hmm. There are so many content creators out there. I think I totally respect that route. It's an opportunity that wasn't available to us when we were starting out. I do think that one of the things that I see being really important is being a subject matter expert. So not being like a general assignment reporter like we were, where our skills were being able to tell any story, anywhere, anytime in a condensed form. What seems to be really valued to me is the people who are true experts in their own fields. And then you get invited on to places like CNN or wherever to talk about, your expertise, and people building sort of their own potentially content businesses through their social media channels.
Finding a niche, basically.
Finding a niche. You just said it in, 3 words.
I know we don't have that much more time with you, Emily. I just, again, I want to say you were such an inspiration when I started in the business. And I'm really hoping that, anyone who's watching this, they're inspired by you as well. And they really get, kind of a look into what it is to be a journalist and behind the scenes. You went to Harvard. Mm-hmm. You became a reporter in Honolulu. By the way, you're from Honolulu. So your family got to see you and watch you before you went off to CNN. Did you think that you would ever be here today? Did you think this is where your career would take you?
Well, no. I mean, I think once I realized what I wanted to do, I was very directional about putting one foot in front of the other and stepping towards it, which, even when we were coming up, it was hard. It was hard to break into the broadcast journalism business. And I think that we're both examples of when you are hungry enough and you are hardworking, and we worked, oh my God, easy hours, middle of the nights, early mornings for so long, it can happen. And so even though the path would be different today, I think the same advice would still apply, which is like, if you want it, go for it, but nobody's going to hand it to you. Dreams are possible. Like, they can come true if you work hard enough. And, I saw you make it happen starting from nothing. You are an example of how
That's so sweet.
ambition and motivation and hard work really can pay off. I think it helped that we both knew what we wanted to do. If you know you want it, then it's you just work backwards.
The great thing about journalism is that it can take you anywhere. I mean, it took you, all over the world. It took me, all over the West Coast and everything like that. So it is still even though I'm not in news anymore, it is still such a fun career if that's, what somebody wants to do.
Yeah.
So Emily, tell me really quickly, last thing, tell me about, your shows and anything else that you want to plug.
Yeah. So we've got a new season of The Circuit with some really exciting guests. I can't share everyone, but we interviewed Reese Witherspoon. So that's one example of someone who's reinvented herself in her own career and started her own women-focused production company, which is now expanding into live events and podcasts. And of course, they're still making shows and movies, and Legally Blonde is coming back. How exciting is that? And I, at Bloomberg Originals, I'm continuing to work on new series ideas, which is really exciting. We're, the streaming boom has, created a lot of new opportunities. And so that's where I'm creatively working. Yeah, I still get to dip into my old investigative reporting chops every so often. We just did a big investigative story about Tesla. And I have an amazing group of colleagues at Bloomberg, which is a really multifaceted organization. And so I get to scratch that itch from time to time too. So yeah, great things to come. Watch The Circuit.
We love to watch you, Emily. So Emily, really quickly, here at NewsBreak, they are using AI to help curate your newsfeed. If you could curate your newsfeed, what would it be? Let me give you an example. Mine would probably be something about food and fashion and maybe Wonderlust or something like that. What would yours be?
Fashion, design, with a little dose of news to stay in the know. Kids, I'm really interested in kids' education and how that's all evolving, and also tech and kids and how it's impacting them. And yeah, how we should all evolve with the onset of artificial intelligence. I definitely don't have the answer. So keep educating me.
All right. I love that. Yeah. By the way, I mean, not only are, you are an anchor of an amazing show, an author, but you're also a mom and a wife. How you balance all those things, I have no idea, but you really are a superwoman.
It's how you do it, which is we just do it.
Maybe a little tired, but we do it. All right, Emily, thank you again so much. That is it for NewsBreak's Behind the Byline. Don't forget to take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to Behind the Byline on your favorite platform, NewsBreak. Until then, I'm Maria Sid Medina. See you soon.